Hampshire voters weighing in loud and clear tonight in the first-in-the-nation primary, shuffling the presidential deck of candidates once again. Here, the latest results out of New Hampshire on the Republican side. A decisive projected victory tonight for Donald Trump, coming out on top. Followed by John Kasich, the Ohio governor, had been trailing in the polls coming into tonight. And third place, still too close to project. An intense fight between Cruz, Bush, and Rubio. Exit polls coming in from New Hampshire with 2/3 of Republicans voters saying they support Trump's call to temporarily ban Muslims from entering the United States. And on the Democratic side, after a razor-thin loss in Iowa, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders pulling off a solid victory tonight. Exit polling showing among voters under the age of 30, Sanders beat Clinton by a colossal margin. We have team coverage, of course, on this pivotal night, and we start with ABC's Tom Llamas, who's at Trump headquarters. Tom.
Juju, good evening. A wild scene here in Manchester. Donald Trump took the stage at his victory party here and just said one word, wow. And the crowd fired back at him, build that wall, build that wall, build that wall. Clearly, Donald Trump's message on immigration, on the military, and helping out veterans resonated here in the Granite State. He wins first in New Hampshire, something he couldn't do in the Iowa caucuses. He told New Hampshire voters that he loved them and that he was on his way to South Carolina. He also predicted more victories ahead. Now, at one point, he was gracious and he thanked the other candidates, especially some who had called him, like Senator Ted Cruz. But he said tomorrow it's back to bam, 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 which means he's going to go back to hitting the campaign hard and probably hitting his competitors hard as well. Now, Donald Trump won by such a large margin here in New Hampshire, it's hard to claim that anybody else had a victory. Governor John Kasich of Ohio spent the most time here, more than 100 town halls, yet he fell into second place, but a very distant second place. He definitely has some momentum going to South Carolina, but his moderate message may not resonate as well as it did here in New Hampshire. Juju?
Thanks, Tom Llamas with Donald Trump tonight. The other outsider making monumental headlines tonight, the self-described Democratic socialist from Vermont. With that, ABC's David Wright, who's been at Bernie Sanders' headquarters all night. David?
Good evening, Juju, from Bernie Sanders' victory party. The crowd here definitely feeling the burn. Big victories tonight for Sanders and for Trump. Both candidates, in a way, flip sides of the same coin, railing against a system that they say is rigged in favor of special interests. One of them railing against billionaires, the other a billionaire himself. There really is only one word to describe tonight's results. Say it with me, huge.
Oh, wow.
Donald Trump is projected to win the Republican primary. The Democrats, Bernie Sanders, who celebrated tonight by playing hoops with his grandkids. Moments earlier, Hillary Clinton had called him to concede defeat.
Because of a huge voter turnout, and I say huge.
The huge question now, does either of them have a path forward to the nomination?
We're going to win in South Carolina.
Let's take them one at a time.
Donald Trump is seen favorably by a decent portion of Republican primary voters, but it's far less than, say, Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz. And as candidates drop out, we should see some of the other candidates be able to coalesce a larger section of the Republican vote and then probably be able to win the nomination.
That's why in the Republican race, the silver and even the bronze medal were just as hotly contested. Tonight, Governor Kasich came out of nowhere and is now projected to take second.
How could any man be so lucky, huh? To have all of you.
Tonight, third place, still too close to project between Rubio, Bush,
You all have reset the race, and for that, I am really grateful.
and Cruz.
And the exact results are unknown. But right now, it appears that we are effectively tied for third in the state of New Hampshire.
Each vying to remain viable in what's being called the establishment lane, hoping to topple Trump in the contest to come. New Hampshire voters are well known to procrastinate when it comes to making up their minds.
That's how we are in New Hampshire.
So today, Governor Kasich poured coffee and waited tables.
Coming through.
Where's table 2?
Secretary Clinton signed posters and smooched.
Oh, no.
While the Trump kids were acting like New Hampshire's first family.
Awesome. Hi, everyone.
Ivanka thanking volunteers at Trump headquarters. All in, the candidates spent an astonishing $100 million on campaign ads in New Hampshire alone. 80% from Republican candidates, with Jeb Bush and his super PAC the biggest spenders, buying 10 times more ads than Donald Trump.
I know we can fix this because I've done it.
1 out of every 3 Republican ads were pro-Bush. As far as boots on the ground, New Hampshire voters have hosted at least 738 official campaign events since the race began. Who came here the most? Governor Kasich. Time well spent, it would seem. Depending on who ekes out third place, the biggest casualty in New Hampshire may be Marco Rubio.
I did not do well on Saturday night, so listen to this. That will never happen again.
Referring to Saturday night's ABC News debate, where Rubio repeated that same memorized line from his stump speech over and over again.
And let's dispel once and for all with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. It's just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly
there it is,
what he's
the memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's the
there it is,
reason
everybody.
The next day, homemade robots started showing up at Rubio's events. They clearly struck a nerve. Today, Rubio's supporters tried to terminate one of them. The big question tonight, did New Hampshire voters terminate Rubio's candidacy?
I think the lack of authenticity, that scripted quality really bothered voters, particularly in New Hampshire.
Earlier today, to get a first-hand sense of the mood of the electorate, we went to this small town. This is Laconia, New Hampshire, population 16,000. The pollsters say this small town is a bellwether. Ever since 2000, Laconia voters have picked the same first and second place finishers as the voters in both parties statewide.
I should say the largest number is probably going with Donald Trump.
Really? At JD's barbershop, owner John Down bent my ears about Trump as he gave me a trim.
I like what Trump is saying, and he doesn't bullshit around.
At my coffee house nearby, the owner, John Moran, isn't a Trump man.
I don't see how people can trust him.
And what do you like about Kasich?
I like what he did in Ohio.
His co-worker, Robin Fernald, clearly voted in the other primary.
Bernie has a majority of the rural votes.
Why can't Hillary cut it here?
You know,
She's not trusted.
I don't think that's right. She's not trusted.
I want to begin by congratulating Senator Sanders on his...
Today, Hillary Clinton was gracious in defeat, suggesting she hopes to be the comeback kid in South Carolina.
It's not whether you get knocked down that matters. It's whether you get back up.
But consider she spent $1.3 million on ads, held 63 events in the Granite State. Consider that she won here in 2008, and consider that her husband always did well in New Hampshire. Tonight's loss must hurt.
Unions got behind Bernie. Young people got behind Bernie. People who were frustrated with Hillary Clinton got behind Bernie.
In the waning days of New Hampshire, she was already looking ahead to South Carolina, where black voters make up more than half the primary electorate. She's debuted this new campaign ad.
When African Americans are more likely to be arrested by police and sentenced to longer prison terms for doing the same thing that whites do.
Despite her huge loss in New Hampshire, the odds are ever in her favor moving forward in these Hunger Games.
Remember, Iowa and New Hampshire are very white states. Hillary Clinton polls very well among African Americans. And South Carolina is going to be a real test for Bernie Sanders. Can he come anywhere close to Hillary Clinton in that state? If he can't, it's probably a good night for him.
Taken together, the Trump and Sanders victories suggest an electorate fed up with politics as usual. Does the rest of the nation share New Hampshire's evident frustration? Stay tuned for South Carolina and Nevada next. I'm David Wright for Nightline in Concord, New Hampshire.
We're being joined now by our friend, ABC News political analyst Matt Dowd. Thanks, Matt.
Great to be here.
I hope you fashioned your seatbelt tonight to watch the results come in. You know, politics always an expectations game. Hillary was expected to lose, but you're saying tonight's results are a complete scramble, a reset.
Yeah, first, I don't think she expected to lose by the margin she lost, which was huge in the course of New Hampshire. Keep in mind, this is the state she won in 2008 against Barack Obama, and now she's come and lost it against Bernie Sanders. This is going to totally affect the race going forward, which is what is likely to happen is Bernie Sanders is going to rise coming out of this because of a bump of positive press, and then he's going to start leading in certain states around the country. So she's in a real fight now for the nomination. Still favored, but she's going to have to fight this out through March and probably into April.
Right, because the crowds rise, the fundraising rises, all of it. What about on the Republican side? We see Kasich surging, we see Jeb Bush seeming revived, and yet a three-way race for third. Is this a complete unstoppable Trump?
Well, I think this is the perfect storm for Donald Trump, which is he wins, he exceeds his poll numbers, he wins by double digits, he recovers from a loss, and now he has multiple candidates to run against, which is the perfect scenario for him. He doesn't do well if it's one-on-one. And I think right now, Donald Trump goes into South Carolina heavily favored, probably wins, then goes into the March 1st states, and still in a dominant position. The establishment tonight, I think, is probably in full-on panic mode because what scenario do they have to put together that is able to stop him? I'm not saying Donald Trump isn't going to fall. Their mistakes can be made, as we've seen. But I think right now, Donald Trump is the dominant candidate in this race.
The results are in and panic ensues. Thanks so much, Matt Dowd, for joining us.
Great to be here.